Greetings to everybody. My name is Joseph Wamala. I am the rector of the University of St. Thomas of Mozambique, and I am happy to be here and to address you all. I want to talk about something that is very important for us all that we are going through, something that has dominated the International Youth Fellowship of this year. So greetings to you all, and the theme for this year for the IYF is the connected world. And if anything, COVID-19 has shown us how connected our world is. Anything that happens in some corner somewhere on earth affects all of us elsewhere. The story of the coronavirus is indeed the story of the connectedness of our world. This year's IYF is dominated by this pandemic, and that is why my talk is going to be about this. Back in May this year, we were warned against trying to predict when the virus would disappear. You remember the World Health Organization Emergency Director, Dr. Mike Ryan, he said back in May, it is important to put this on the table. This virus may be just another endemic virus in our communities, and this virus may never go away, he said during the virtual press conference from Geneva. He added, HIV has not gone away, but we have come to terms with the HIV virus. So this is what I'm going to talk about. First and foremost, you must have noticed that some countries are doing well than others in the fight against the coronavirus. Some countries have, by and large, managed to control the virus. Others have not. Why is this so? Why is it that some countries, some societies, some people thrive in uncertainties, in crisis, in chaos, and others do not? Why is it that some people don't merely survive, they even prevail? They don't merely survive, they even thrive. So how can we both survive and thrive in this pandemic? One, we have to accept the new normal. COVID-19 is here to stay, at least for a while. So let us work out how to live with it. We have to do some changes in our behavior, in our daily lives, in our routines. We have to change in order to survive and even thrive. Two, we have to embrace the suffering that comes with the new normal. We are not advocating suffering for its own sake. In no way is suffering necessary to find meaning. Meaning is possible in spite of, not because of suffering, especially when the suffering is unavoidable. If suffering were avoidable, the meaningful thing to do would be to remove its cause. That is why the search for a vaccine must continue. We have to find a vaccine be it as it may. But until we find a vaccine, we have to keep looking, we have to keep working, we have to keep doing all the necessary things in order to survive the pandemic. Jesus said, by endurance you will gain your lives. And those words are true this time more than ever. What we are saying, therefore, is that we have to find meaning in life, even when confronted with hopelessness like of coronavirus, like in suffering or when facing a fate that cannot be changed. We have to know that in life we can't avoid suffering outright, because as we know, to live is to suffer. COVID-19 is the new name for suffering. We have had other forms of suffering like sickness and war, hatred and oppression, poverty, and ultimately death. All have been among us from the start of human life. Now we have a novel form of suffering which is called COVID-19. Like we do with the usual forms of suffering, what matters is to bear witness to the uniquely human potential at its best, which is to transform a personal tragedy into a triumph, to turn one's predicament into a human achievement, to turn a pandemic into an opportunity. When we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves. In other words, we can turn the tables on suffering, not by eliminating our pain altogether, but by doing something to give it purpose and meaning. Suffering, someone said, ceases to be suffering at the moment it finds a meaning. We will get through this pandemic. It won't be painless. It won't be quick. But God will use this mess for good. In the meantime, don't be foolish or naive. Don't despair either. With God's help, we will get through this. As Max Lucado told us these words. In God's hands, intended evil becomes eventual good. That is the heart of Joseph's story in Genesis. The Bible says, so it came to pass, when Joseph had come to his brothers, that they stripped Joseph of his tunic, and the tunic of many colors that was on him. Then they took Joseph and they cast him into a pit, and the pit was empty. There was no water in it, and his brothers sat down to eat a meal. Joseph didn't see this assault coming. He didn't climb out of bed that morning and think, I would better dress in padded clothing because this is the day I get tossed into a hole. The attacker caught Joseph off guard. So does the coronavirus. It has caught us off guard, and it is catching us all, its victims, off guard. But Joseph's story got worse before it got better. Abandonment led to enslavement, then entrapment, and finally imprisonment again. Yet Joseph never gave up. Bitterness never staked its claim. Anger never took hold of him. His heart never hardened. His resolve never vanished. He not only survived, Joseph thrived. He came out of the ordeal not bitter, but better. And that is what we want. We want to come out of this pandemic not bitter, but better. And that will depend on the way we manage, we live, we handle the pandemic. Either we come out of bitter or we come out of better. As we know, the story of Joseph ended on a different note. An Egyptian official promoted Joseph to chief servant. The prison warden placed Joseph over the inmates, and the Pharaoh, the highest ruler on the planet by then, made Joseph his prime minister. By the end of his life, Joseph was the second most powerful man of his generation. How did Joseph flourish in the midst of a tragedy? How will you and me flourish in this pandemic? In God's hands, intended evil becomes eventual good. Joseph's story can be anyone's story. Joseph's story can be your story as well. The very acts intended to destroy God's servant turned out to strengthen him. Joseph himself said, "You meant evil against me, but God revolved it together for good." God is a master weaver. He redeemed the story of Joseph. God will redeem your story and my story. In Isaiah chapter 26, verse 20, God tells us, "Come, my people, enter your rooms and lock your doors behind you. Hide yourselves for a little while until the fury has passed by." Let us heed to this divine command of lockdown. Let us stay at home as much as we can. Let us keep social distance. Let us wash regularly our hands. Let us use the mask, because this is the new normal. Embrace it, keep it, and it will keep you and everybody else alive. And thank you for listening.